Production of A Gathering of Bears is financed with support from the BBC Natural History Unit, the Alaska Department of Fish and Game, the John Sheldon Bevins Memorial Foundation, the International Association for Bear Research and Management, and the Alaska Conservation Foundation.
Alaska is one of the world's last truly wild places. Its spectacular landscapes and extreme climate also form one of the last strongholds for North America's wildlife. Brown bears, or grizzly bears, used to inhabit the western United States. Now they're only plentiful in the north. Nearly all of Alaska is brown bear country, so you stand a good chance of seeing them anywhere you go, but especially if you visit particular places. An autumn vacation in Denali National Park may yield a glimpse of them as they forage for berries. And if you visit the moist panhandle of southeast Alaska and Pat Creek on Admiralty Island, you'll see them patrolling the shores and forests. Most often, they'll be seen where there are fish to be caught. We've learned something from living among bears in these areas, that bears and humans can coexist peacefully. And Brooks Camp in Katmai National Park on the Alaska Peninsula has long been a popular place to see bears. By autumn, most visitors are gone. Then, Brooks River is left to the bears. But of all the places where bears can easily be seen, there's one that is unique. The best place in the world to watch bears, the McNeil River State Game Sanctuary. The McNeil River flows into Kamishak Bay on the lower Cook Inlet. And apart from summer visitors, this area is uninhabited. And that's perhaps why this summer gathering of bears only recently became widely known. In the late 1950s, the Alaska Department of Fish and Game built a simple base camp for bear studies about 2 miles from McNeil Falls. In 1967, the area was set aside as a state game sanctuary to protect this concentration of bears. Later, a permit system was begun to limit numbers of people and to regulate their activities. The manager of the sanctuary is Larry Allmiller.
I think people often ask how we're able to live in the midst of what's been categorized as the world's largest concentration of brown bears safely. Year after year, we place a small number of people in, and we weave through these bears, and we spend a considerable amount of time essentially being right in the center of things and watching them. We conduct ourselves in a way we try to, in each and every single interaction, day after day, with each bear, let them know that we're not anything to be particularly wary of. And that may sound a little bit odd, but essentially what we're saying is, please allow us to be here and don't be stressed by our presence. We are here and you can see us, but we're not going to do anything to you, on one hand, so you can be comfortable. And on the other hand, we're not going to provide anything for you, so there's no need that you need to seek us out purposefully. And the result of that essentially is that they perceive us as a neutral entity.
And it's this unique relationship that draws visitors from all over the world. This first tantalizing glimpse of the falls with its bears will be the beginning of unforgettable memories. For a few days, the campsite, almost lost in the landscape, will be their home in the bush. To protect the bears that gather here, the number of visitors is limited. A lottery is used to choose the lucky few. The McNeil River experience is more than just wildlife watching. It's an opportunity to share time and space with animals that have been portrayed as fearsome, unpredictable, and inclined toward human predation. Here, visitors won't be shielded by bars, moats, or glass. In sharing the next 4 days with dozens of brown bears, the newcomers will learn much about bear behavior, and in doing so, overcome many of their fears. Arrivals and departures are limited to high tide, so there's only one flight each day, and that's only when the weather is good enough for the trip.
How you doing?
You have to be well prepared, bringing food for at least a couple of extra days and full camping gear. Campers' garbage is shipped out with those leaving, so that the bears have no chance to learn that it is a source of food. And remember, bears are everywhere. It's apparent that this young bear has learned to be comfortable around people. The pilot, well, he's seen it all before. Besides, the tide is dropping and the weather might not hold. He must be away. It's an amazing welcome to have a bear so close, so soon, and an opportunity to tell newcomers that here bears have right-of-way. This is the cornerstone of the sanctuary's success. Here at last, but best get the tents up. Tents are just for sleeping in. Any food items that might attract a bear, and they do have an astonishingly keen sense of smell, will be stored well away from the tents in the cook cabin. Camp facilities are minimal, and you must be self-sufficient. rules are few, and once each new group is finally settled in, they're reminded of them.
Welcome to McNeil, and what you're standing in right now is what we call a campground. The campground's got perimeters where we don't let the bears in, and it's sort of defined by the sauna over there, the last tent over there, the edge of the grass here. If you're in the campground and a bear comes in, we'd appreciate it if you would come get one of us, Larry or John or myself, and we'll chase it out. Almost all the bears...
Derek Stonerov, who did graduate research on bears here 20 years ago, now returns each year as a guide.
They stop coming in. If you're taking a walk out on the beach or something, which you're perfectly free to do, as long as you go in the direction towards the south, and you meet a bear, probably the best thing to do is just stand there, stand right where you see the bear, and the bear will pass right on by. Because most of the bears that you're liable to meet out there are habituated to people, and they're used to people at very close ranges. So if you don't think the bear...
An habituated bear is one that feels comfortable around people and is unlikely to run away or act defensively. This is the cook cabin where food is stored, meals prepared, and friendships forged. Here, people share feelings and observations about the day's experiences. The number of visitors in camp at one time is restricted to 15. Of those, up to 10 have permits to visit the falls. The remainder stay in camp on a standby basis. While new visitors are sleeping off their travel fatigue, bears are already up and about. They've eaten little since they emerged from their dens in the high country, and they're ravenously hungry. Sedges and grasses, like these growing in front of camp, are their first reliable and widely available food. Every day not only brings new human visitors to camp, but at this time of year, there are newly arriving bears. As bears return year after year, they become recognizable. This bear is a familiar 12-year-old female and has just arrived this summer with 3-year-old cubs. Her cub has porcupine quills in its paw, but will later recover. Because these bears are recognizable as individuals, their fate can be followed. Having ignored the busy campsite, these particular bears have grown used to the presence of salmon fishermen sheltered in the cove. All human activities, including commercial fishing, have been modified to reduce their impact on bears. Young bears are naturally curious and attracted to any new object in their environment.
Go on, bear. Get out of there. Go on now, get. Go on, get out of there. Get. Move on now.
But because this encounter doesn't involve food, the young bear is easy to discourage. It's fairly easy to modify a bear's behavior if they're not rewarded by human food, and that is the basis for our relationship with bears. Bear activity tends to increase later in the day, which is fortunate for late risers. To spend a day bear watching, you'll need warm clothes, lunch, and of course cameras, and lots of film.
Everybody's ready to have fun?
Got the first aid kit?
No?
Each group is accompanied by at least one guide who is armed. But in over 20 years, no gun has ever been fired, no bears injured or killed, and no visitors hurt by bears. On the way to McVick Creek in McNeil Falls, we meet this well-known female under cubs. We find that habituated bears, with or without cubs, are comfortable around people wherever we cross paths. Being so close, we can observe this family on their first day in the sanctuary. Gathering behavioral data is also part of Fish and Game's activities here. It's a natural laboratory. New young bears are arriving all the time, and their nearness disturbs this mother. But these new arrivals are more concerned about getting to know each other, so she relaxes and returns to nursing. There are other creatures here, and because we treat them just like the bears, they show a similar tolerance of people. With so many bears meeting up, you're assured of all sorts of interactions. Bear viewing at McVick Creek takes place in June at the riffles and the waterfalls upstream. It's remarkable that this female is more wary of bears than of people, with their strange smells and noisy cameras. As special as the June viewing at McVick has become, it's the McNeil Falls that in July and August attract the largest concentration of bears. Away from camp, we don't want to surprise bears, so it's important to consistently use the same trails and to let them know that we're coming. It's the predictable behavior of people over the years that has helped bears become so tolerant of our movements. The behaviors that we've adopted at McNeil can be applied anywhere in bear country. Always make a lot of noise. Try never to surprise a bear, particularly if there's already a lot of natural noise, like the sound of the falls. This is the viewing pad. From here, we'll watch the action for the whole day. Because they know where to expect us, this allows the bears to choose how close they want to approach. The pad becomes, as it were, an inside-out zoo with no bars, while a kaleidoscope of bears revolves around it. Many of the bears are large males, and as good fishing spots are few, they sometimes fight and get injured. The meltwaters run strong, and it demands great skill to catch salmon in these raging currents. When less dominant bears are excluded from these good fishing spots by more forceful individuals, then they resort to other, less efficient fishing methods. But their efforts are rewarded in the end. It's sometimes not easy to see large chum salmon from above the torrent, so some bears do the next best thing. Because bears are individuals, they often develop techniques that are unique to them. Of all the scores of bears that have visited the falls over 20 years, only 2 have learned to submerge themselves completely to feel for salmon in the blinding surge of bubbles. In any group of bears, there is a hierarchy. Each bear learns who are its subordinates and superiors through constant interactions. These encounters seldom lead to actual combat. Sitting on the gravel pad, it's easy to get the feeling that somehow we're not a part of all of this, that we are just spectators. That Alaskan summers are short is an understatement. Winter is not far away, and these bears need to put on fat if they are to survive their 6 months of hibernation. If the salmon run is strong, they'll feed well. The most dominant bears with access to the best fishing spots can eat an estimated 60 pounds of salmon a day. It's a photographer's heaven. It's difficult to know which bear to photograph when they're all around us. Most of these bears return year after year and have become familiar to us. Some have returned ever since the visitor program began over 20 years ago. This old male is now in his late 20s and still very active and an expert catcher of fish. This old-timer has taken many fish today. He's so gorged that only the eggs are still prized, and he leaves the rest to a hungry female and her cubs. Both sexes and all ages of bears are seen at McNeil River, and in recent years, the total number of bears has doubled. Even females with cubs fish at the falls, although they're often too nervous to vie for the best fishing spots. In fact, There are sometimes so many family groups around that cubs have difficulty recognizing their own mother. For her part, she's threatened by any approaching bears. Because so many bears are crowded together, often competing for the same fish or fishing spot, fights erupt, and this adds to the tension. Females average 2 cubs in each litter, though they can have up to 4. Natural mortality is high, and only half of the cubs will reach the age of 3 when they will leave their mothers. From the oldest to the youngest, every year they come back. And for visitors, if memories fade, there will always be photographs.
I've begun to realize on a real personal level that this really is special. This is something that's unequaled. Of course, we have several hundred visitors a year, and they tell me the same thing that I'm learning for myself, that they've been to see the gorillas, they've been to the Serengeti, they've been here and they've been there, and this, in their view, is truly one of the wildlife wonders of the world. And they tell me that, and they keep coming and they keep telling me that. And so coupled with my experience, there's no question in my mind now that it truly is one of the most incredible wildlife viewing sites in the world.
But perhaps the very last words and pictures belong to the bears and their watchers, for they are living proof that bears and people can indeed coexist.
There's an excitement to being next to these living creatures that's beyond anything else that I've experienced.
In a word, it's unforgettable.
Sublime.
Unbelievable.